This is a 300 amp hour lithium battery, a LifePO4 battery. This big thing. This is the new WattCycle 12 volt 300 amp hour Mini. Look at that. Look at the difference in size. I can't wait to try this out. Can you believe that? 300 amp hours in this package? What's this? Hi, it's Jerry with ilovervlife. I have been looking at large capacity batteries, and WattCycle contacted me and said, we've got a new battery. It's called a 12 volt 300 amp hour Mini. This is it. This is believe it or not, this is a 300 amp hour battery. Look at the size of this. Now, just to kind of make a comparison, and I don't have one to show you, but if you were to compare this to, say, a Group 27 lead acid battery, that's what originally came in our Montana and comes in many, many RVs nowadays, those Group 27 heavy lead acid batteries. This battery is only 2 inches wider and only a ½ inch taller and the same in thickness. Think about that. So it's 15 inches by 7.5 inches by 10 inches. It'll fit just about in any battery compartment that already exists. Again, you might have a little height issue, 2 inches. You need to check that a Group 27 battery comes in. So what would this replace in lead acid? It would replace 6 batteries. And when you think about that, 6 lead acid batteries, and when you just compare that weight, forget about how much space it would take. You know, just figure a string, the whole length of this table of lead acid batteries. This would be 19% less in weight than 6 lead acid batteries. And if you were saying, well, I would just rather go ahead and get me 3 100 amp hour batteries because of the price there. I'll share the price in just a second. This is 40% lighter if you were to put 3 in a string. Think about it, that's incredible. But then we get to, now again, this is 300 amp hours, 3,840 watt hours. And then we get to the price of this, currently on their website, this is November, $599. $599, that's without any kinds of discounts. That's 15.5 cents a watt. That is absolutely mind-blowing. It's just crazy. And then you look at the features that come with it. It comes with a 7-year warranty. 7-year warranty, this 57-pound battery. That's amazing. Low temperature protection. Now that's very, very important. If you live deep South Florida, areas that may not have any freezing, and freezing 32 degrees Fahrenheit, none of those areas that you have to worry about charging your battery and freezing. You cannot charge a lithium battery below 32 degrees, you'll destroy it. This has low temperature protection. So we're in middle Georgia. We go up north sometimes in the winter. We're in freezing temperatures. I don't want to charge this if I'm below 32 degrees because I'll destroy my battery. This has low temperature protection. And then above that, 41 degree recovery, meaning that it's got to warm up just a little bit. You don't want it to be cycling back and forth between turning off, turning on, turning off, turning on. It's got to get back up to 41 degrees once it triggers before it'll ever recover and start charging again. So it's very, very important. But even above and beyond that, you can still take it to a discharge rate down to a -4. So you might not be able to charge it, but you can continue to use it over a period of time, even in some pretty cold climates. So I find that amazing. Now, it does not have heaters in it. This is just purely low temperature protection in this. The other thing that I like about it is it's got grade A LiFePO cells in it. So these are brand new LiFePO cells that are inside of it. A 200 amp continuous discharge BMS. We're going to be testing that. And it will also give you a 5-second discharge up to 300 amps. So that's very, very important, especially if you've got, say, a large inverter. I would say most people that are going to use something like this are going to use a 2,000 to a 3,000 watt inverter. And with those inverters, you're going to get some pretty high surges, especially if you're using things like power tools, things like that. 5 seconds, 300 amps to be able to do that as well. And you can charge this thing. That's also important. And I did it earlier. It came at a half charge. I put an 80 amp charger on it. Bang! Charged it super quick. It can be charged up to 100 amps at 14.6 volts. You need 14.6 to be able to hit this thing good, hard, and heavy, to be able to bring it up to a full capacity. Like I said, it was at about half. I put 80 on it. Boom, in about 2 or 3 hours, we were done. I came out here, it was already turned off. I don't even know how quickly it charged. So it's really, really nice to have those high amperage chargers. Even inside of our Montana, we've got a 75 amp lithium converter charger. So we charge these big batteries really quick when we're going down the road, and then we plug into campground power. Boom, we hit them pretty fast. I find this amazing. $5.99, 15.5 cents a watt hour. That's crazy. All right, now, really WattCycle, is this really a 300 amp hour battery? Well, we are going to put a capacity test on it. You might have seen it in other videos. I've got a new device that I'm going to run at 300 amp hour. It's going to be sometime tomorrow before I can completely deplete this battery, because I can only do about 10 to 12 amps in the little test jig that I have. But we'll see if this is a 300 amp hour battery. We'll see if it's 3,840 watt hours. You know, think about that. That's really crazy. In this little small 57 pound package, this is going to be neat. Let's get the test jig set up. I have the capacity meter set up. Let's take a quick look at it and see what the current readings are on it. All right, let's look at our current capacity before we let this run. It's going to take a while. Probably till tomorrow sometime. We are doing, I'll fine tune this just a little bit. We're at, we'll set it for 10 amps. There we go, 10 amps. And we've only pulled here since I've set it up, you know, 3/10 of an amp hour. So we've got a long way to go. We'll go ahead and let this run and check on it later. The load test has completed, finally. So let's look at the results and see how well this WattCycle 300 amp hour mini, how well it performed. Was it really 300 amp hours? Well, let's see. 301.13 amp hours. Yes, this is a 300 amp hour battery in this small package. This was pulling 12 amps continuously in this test. 3,826 watt hours. Wow. Took us 25 hours and 8 minutes to get to this point. That is pretty impressive. 300 amp hour battery for sure. And this little mini 300 amp hour package. Impressive. Well, that's pretty impressive. 301 amp hours. Okay, I'll give that 1 amp hour the margin of error in a test like this, but still 300 amp hours for sure. And the capacity is absolutely amazing. Took over 25 hours to get to this point. Okay, now, before we can do any more testing, I want to do load on the BMS, so I want to stress that. Unfortunately, we can't do that till tomorrow. I've got to charge this back up. That's going to take several hours to get it back, to put 300 amp hours back in it. So we'll go ahead and get this plugged in and get that started. It's going to take a little bit of a boost to do that. I'll use my big charger for that because it's going to take a while. Okay, so let's get that started and then I'll see you tomorrow. So now I have my typical test that I use to look at load. So I have a 3,000 watt inverter. I've got two 1,500 watt heaters, floor heaters that I will test this at. And what I want to see is, this states that it has a 200 amp battery management system. So we'll look at that and put a good heavy load on it. So let's go ahead and get that test started. Here's the test environment. I have the battery connected to this 3,000 watt inverter. So we'll see how that's going to work. And then I have these two 1,500 watt heaters. So that's the test environment. I'll also check the amperage out of the battery with this clamp-on meter. We'll look at that. And then I'll also double check the inverter. I've been seeing some voltages that sometimes read a little bit different on these inverters. Could be the wiring that I'm using. But I'm going to go ahead and double check it with my digital voltmeter. So let's go ahead and get the test underway. So I'm going to start by turning on this first heater. And there we go. We're going to hear the fan cut on the inverter here soon. We're at 560 watts out of this first heater, and we are pulling 47 amps currently. Let's go ahead and take it up one more notch. We're now at 840 watts bouncing back and forth. And we're at 69, just a tad over 69 amps out of the battery. We'll go ahead and take this up one more notch. We're now at 1380 watts. Now, this is going to get noisy. The fan's kicked on the inverter. And we are sitting at 120 amps. Let's go ahead and validate and see what the meter reading is going to be. I'm showing right now 12.5 volts. Let's put the digital voltmeter on. And we're reading 12.8. See, now I suspected that. I think the inverter's voltage is reading just a tad low. So we're running 12.8. I've always suspected that out of this inverter. And the inverter is showing 12.4. So I don't think the voltage sag is quite as bad as what the inverter suggests. Let's add the second heater now. Alright, we're going to start getting up at some higher power. We are at 19, almost at the 1900 watts. We're going to get very, very close to the BMS top end. Let's go ahead and take this up one more notch on the heater. Now we're pulling, getting warm in here, we're now pulling 2130, 2110, 2120 watts. Getting very, very close to the top end of this BMS at 200 amps. Let's go ahead and see what our voltages are. It's performing very, very well. 12.5. So again, I've always questioned the input voltage and how this inverter reads. I think it always reads low. It does. So we're at 12.5 volts. BMS is doing very, very good job. All right, here's where we should trip it out. We are now at 2,500 watts. We're bouncing back and forth, and this BMS, as I typically see in most of these BMSs, they will go over the 200 amps. And I mention this often. If you have a 200 amp BMS, fuse this 200 amp BMS at 200 amps, just for this type of thing. Let's see what the battery, how the battery is performing voltage-wise. Very good. 12.4. 12.4. Again, these inverters just don't read true when it comes to voltage. But we are at 12.4 on the battery, doing very, very well. 230 amps. I have exceeded that. Cables are getting a tad warm. Just a tad. Not bad. Battery's performing very, very, very well. Let's go ahead and take it back down to something that it's reported to tolerate, which is 192 amps. Running very, very well. So this would be, I would suggest this would be an extreme case. In our camper, we'll never run 192 amps. We'll never push this thing this high. But if we did, battery's performing very, very well. I'll go ahead and take this back down. All right, I'm not seeing a change in the battery monitor. Let's look at, this is saying 13 volts. and it has recovered to 13.2. The results for this 300 amp hour WattCycle battery, well, they were square on. It's exactly what I expected. And again, I'm seeing this so many times with these imported BMSs. They may be rated at 200 amps continuous, and that's probably what they're asking you to do, not to exceed it. But I did, and it handled it very, very well. So just for protection purposes, if you're using this, probably more so in a off-grid situation for your home, or you're using it for disaster recovery, and even if you're using it in your RV, I would recommend that you fuse your inverter between this battery with a 200 amp fuse, just to protect the BMS long term. Now, in an RV situation, I can go ahead and assure you it is going to be the rarest of occasions that I'll be pulling 200 amps out of my battery. It's just that we don't do that on a regular basis. If we did, it would be very, very short term. Let's say we had several things on inside the RV, and I turned on our microwave for say 5 minutes or 7 minutes, something like that. That'll be about the only time that we would get close to the 200 amps of having that on, and then multiple. You know, so you figure 1800 watts, 17 to 1800 watts out of an inverter, and then residential refrigerator and maybe a TV on or something like that. We would probably get up very, very close to that 200 amps, or maybe even slightly higher for a short duration. Again, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever that microwave would be running. That would be the only case. 95% of the time, off of a 300 amp battery or any battery inside of our RV, we're going to be in the 300, 400 mark for any periods of times. And then even in the evenings when we start turning things off, the only thing that's going to be running maybe would be something like our internet router, and definitely the refrigerator cycling off and on, off and on. So that's going to be going from, say, 100 watts to 300, 350 watts. So that's, that's typical of what we see in our RV travel, and I would suspect in most RV travel. And then you hit the microwave and it shoots back up. Okay, so I think that's very, very promising. The BMS handled itself very, very well. Pleased to see that. So let's look at practical. I'm going to repeat the process that you have seen me do multiple times, and that is where I call real world. So let's stick it in the RV and see how it's going to perform. First, I'm going to charge it back up to full capacity. Before we get started, I just wanted to show you where this is installed. You can see how much real estate that we have here installing this battery. This is in our storage bay, with chairs and all those types of things. And if you've seen other videos of larger batteries, you know that it just literally took up from this space all the way over here to the drainage pipe here from the bathroom. So this thing is probably two-thirds the size of one of the larger batteries, width-wise, height-wise of even some of the newer capacity size, maybe 4 inches or so shorter. It really is a nice package. And then, if you were looking at taking these just before we started our testing, and you wanted to, stack these, I could stack easily 3 here, all the way up here to the top, very, very easy. With just some basic racking, I could do that, and it'd give me 900 amps, at a very affordable price. Really is a nice little package. Okay, so let's go ahead and start putting some realistic loads on this and see how this is going to behave. Okay, let's start some real-world testing. Let's check the shunt real quick and also make sure we have no solar going into it. Just going to be purely a battery test, and we're going to put some loads on this thing. We'll start with our Victron app. Let's just make sure that the solar is not on. We'll double check that. And we'll go here, and the charger is not on, so we don't want that on during this testing. And let's go ahead and get the smart shunt configured properly. So we are here. We need to show this as a 300 amp hour battery. We are doing that. And we are going to We are going to synchronize this to 100%. Yes, this is a full charge battery. Good, okay. So we're in great shape there. We've got everything set up. Discharge floor at 10%. Okay, we're in great shape. All right, so let's look and see what the shunt is showing. I did validate this when I installed it down below. It was sitting at 13.56 volts, so that's good. We've already got a little bit of current running on it right now. Probably at 22 watts. That's, you know, the LED lights that I've got on here inside the camper. You know, 2 or 3 right now. We'll turn some more on, and the refrigerator will come on in a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's do a few things. Since this is a 300 amp hour battery, no solar coming into it, let's just really give it a heavy duty workout. This is a practical workout. Sure, we've done load testings on it. We put a bunch of heaters on it. We've stressed it as much as we can, but we haven't seen what it looks like in a real world environment. So here's what we've got. If you've seen my videos in the past, I've got that big, I think that's a 15 or 16 cubic foot, 3-door GE refrigerator. I'll mention this about the refrigerator. It's extraordinarily efficient for a residential refrigerator, 120 volts. But we are going to have to do that conversion from 12 volts through the inverter, so there is some loss there. It's just what it is. It's the way those things work. So we're going to let the refrigerator run. It is on. It is on, but the compressor's not on right now. It'll be going back and forth, back and forth. So we'll just let that do that. Right now I'm looking at 76 degrees here in Middle Georgia, mid-November. Yes, I know some of you are jealous about that. So we'll let that run for, you know, I'm not going to do anything to turn fans on, open windows up, or anything like that. If it gets a little warm in here, the refrigerator will work a little harder. Real world, right? That's just what it's going to be. So refrigerator's going to be going. I want some load on this because it is 300 amps. I'm going to leave just a few lights on here. I've got more on right now for just videoing, so I show up. But I will leave what I call practical lights on, as though Joan and I are in here. And we're just going to give this thing a bit of a push. I'm going to turn the TV on. I got the refrigerator on. Let's go ahead and get those set up, and then we'll just see what the load looks like. Let's do this too. Let me open up the refrigerator, warm it up a little bit, see what it looks like when it cuts on. We'll get some of the cold temps out of there. I'll hear the compressor come on in just a second. So we'll do that. So let's go ahead and turn the TV on. See if we can get a shopping channel or something on.
1-800-500-7050.
There we go. And
that's the phone number to call.
You hear the sound bar. So here's the 120 volt AC draws that we'll have going for, I don't know, I'm going to let this run probably 5 or 6 hours. It'll be into the dark. It's now a quarter till 1, almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I have TV running. I'm gonna have the Roku sound bar going. I'm gonna have, you know, I've got an Amazon Echo in here. They don't draw a whole lot of power. Refrigerator is getting ready to cut on. Refrigerator is now on. Compressor's on. So we've got that being pulled. I've got a handful of lights here. This is worst case. I'd never have these many lights on with Joan and I in here. So let's look at the smart shunt real quick and see where we stand with that. So this is with everything on. Of course, we're still going to be at 100%. We haven't drawn enough. Okay, 342 watts. That's not a ton, but that's a good start to let this just run a little while. And let's see where we end up after a few hours with that refrigerator cycling off and on. Okay, we have been running about 6, almost 7 hours. Refrigerator looks good. TV's still on. All right, I think that's enough of that. Let's check the Victron app real quick, see how we're doing. 71%. Okay, that's about what I expected. We used a little over a quarter. We were running a lot of things, so that does not surprise me. Let's see, we consumed 87 amps of the 300, so that's about right. Okay, this is saying that we'll run 9 hours. That's because the refrigerator's running right now. That will change. We'll see where we're at in the morning. Next day, it's 11:30, almost 11:30. Let's open up this Victron app and just see where we're at. Over 17 hours of operation since we turned this off yesterday. Running that refrigerator, that is absolutely amazing. We're at 27%. You figure this is a 300 amp hour battery. That's just a fraction of after another 100 amps of capacity remaining. Look at that voltage, 12.95 volts. Still rocking it. A little bit of current is being pulled right now. So the refrigerator again is in that cycle mode. And it's saying 15 hours of operation. We know that that's not true, but I would say it's at least another, I'm going to guess 7 to 8. It's pretty amazing. Look at that, 17 hours since you've seen me last. And this WattCycle battery is really rocking. We have really been putting this thing through the paces. Think about this. I've kind of been disjointed in the way that I presented this. But if we were looking at this from a travel perspective, let's look at just downtime of 17 hours. If I did, let's just do the math. If I did an 8.5 hour tow, that would be half of that 17 hours. And then yesterday, I was running TV. The refrigerator's never turned off now. We've been running this residential refrigerator the entire time. I've been running a hotspot for our Wi-Fi for that period of time as well. Had a security camera going. We typically wouldn't have that going when we're traveling unless the kiddies are running about and we're not inside the RV. We'd have it in for then. TV, sound bar, the Echo, all these USB ports, lights, for goodness sakes, we've had that going on. So for 8.5 hours, think of that as a long tow. That's a very long tow. And then we ran about, 6 hours or so, 6 hours and change of TV and just lifestyle in here. So that would be, say, pulling into a Harvest Host, making a meal, watching a little TV, going to bed that night. USBs are operating if we need to charge our phones up, etc., etc. You know, that type of thing. And then we'll take that other half of that 17 hours and then another 8.5 hour tow. And that's where we would be at right now, with still roughly a third of the capacity of this battery still remaining. No solar, no charging, no nothing, just hitting this thing. I look at that small package and go, how do they do that? That's really quite amazing. Well, what I haven't done is, do things like roll the slides in and out. Let's just do that just to, again, show that we can do that on this battery, even with only 100 amps left over. Let's make sure that we've got enough power. I'm going to kind of monitor the inverter panel. It's not 100%, and just make sure that we don't have a lot of sag and that the BMS can still provide the power that we need at a 27% capacity. So let's see what's going to happen here real quick. I'm going to slide the camera down a bit. All right, let's see what's going to happen with this slide right here. So instead of watching the inverter panel, let's just go ahead and pull the smart shunt up and see what happens here. So watch the camera here real quick. I'm back here in the back. We'll run this guy in. Still maintaining, look at that, still maintaining very, very solid. You can see that 1,000 watts to pull this guy in and out. But look at the battery voltage. No sag at all. That's just absolutely beautiful. Well, a teeny bit. We went from 8.4 to, we'll say, 0.4. So 12.8 to 12.4. Not bad. Okay, we're going to roll it back out. Amperage is good. You can look at that. Almost 60 amps to operate one slide. Capacity still fantastic. Sag is not bad. There we go. Look at that. That's awesome. Wow, I think I've proven the point. This 300 amp hour WattCycle battery really can handle the RV lifestyle that Joan and I have. And with no inputs, I think that's what's really interesting. Look, I could run the slides in and out multiple times. I've got almost 100 amps left over, and you see we were at 27%, 26%, and just running that one in one time had little impact on this battery as far as what capacities run over. I could have done it a dozen times, I think, and we would have been fine. So I think WattCycle, you met the requirements. It really is a heavy-duty battery, small package. Golly, I'd love to have 2 or 3 of these. That would really be something as far as an off-grid solution for Joan and I. Or if you're looking at something for off-grid, or you're looking for something disaster recovery, one or many of these at the price performance that WattCycle is offering and the capacity that it's capable of doing really is quite an amazing battery. And I'm just really thrilled to be able to look at this battery. We're not going to look at any more large batteries this year, and this opportunity came up, and really the attraction was it was a mini 300 amp hour battery, and I thought, this just can't be. Well, it's the real deal. It is, and it can be, and it did. So that's quite amazing. Well, I thank WattCycle for providing this battery for us to be able to review, and we do this so that we can show you, the different types of applications that it can live in, whether you're in an RV, whether you're off-grid, or whether you're just needing something for disaster recovery. This type of battery is really very beneficial, especially at the price point that they're offering. I find that quite amazing when I've compared this to other batteries as well. Well, if you're interested in purchasing this battery, I've provided links in today's description. Or just getting more information about WattCycle, just click on that link and you can look at the other types of batteries they have, from 100 amp hours and higher up into these 300s. And they have other products out there you might be interested as well to support your battery and off-grid RV needs. So you can look at that as well. Second to that, you can go out to ilovervlife.com. I got a full write-up on this battery. You can link to the video there as well. And you've got some other links that you can see for WattCycle too. So if you find that helpful, we'd appreciate you going to the website. But most of all, we appreciate you watching the video. And if you do click those links, this is an affiliate link. It helps out the channel a little bit, helps us pay for a website, buying cameras, and this type of stuff, just so we can present this to you. We don't look at any other forms of compensation that we do out there. Just look at the product, and if you like it and purchase it, we'd appreciate it using our link. So thank you so much for doing that. And if you like these types of videos, a little thumbs up helps us be able to gauge what we put on the channel for you to review. So we appreciate that. And if you hadn't subscribed, do so. We appreciate those subscriptions as well. Hey, we love doing these types of things. We enjoy it so much. And the only thing that we do is for one specific reason. We've said it hundreds and hundreds of times. It's just because I love RV life. Hope to see you in our RV travels very, very soon. Take care.